Howdy ho, everybody. I am Donuts. I'm here with my fiance.
Thermites.
I've seen South Park season 20-something.
I am watching it blinds.
This is, of course, a Black Lives Matter, All Cops Are Bastards, and Trans Rights supporting channel. You better be supporting that shit, too, or you can get the fuck off the channel. Also, we're coming up on election season. We are in election season. We've been in election season. Please, for the love of God, vote. If you're going to vote, vote Green Party. Please. I'm begging you, if you're in America, vote Green Party. But that's all I got to say. We've already, said it, season 6, episode 1, Jared has AIDS. Any predictions?
So, based entirely on, the wordplay of it, I assume it's not AIDS.
It is AIDS.
It is AIDS.
It is AIDS.
And this is before we learned that he was a horrible pedophile, right?
This is way before.
Because that's the thing. I cannot envision an episode with Jared from Subway that is not either, so far behind, in the era of, it's funny that this guy was fat and then he lost weight. Or in the current era of, it's funny that this man's a horrible pedophile and now he's extremely fat.
I can't believe, by the way, we got both Bill Cosby and Jared, almost back-to-back. One episode in between them.
Boy.
It's almost like all the old celebrities from the 90s are pedophiles.
I mean, I guess it might literally just be, Jared said that he lost all that weight because he was eating Subway, but actually he lost all that weight because he has AIDS.
Alright, good prediction. Let's jump into this. If you want to see the full length, check it out on the Patreon below for $4 a month. Jesus Christ! Oh my lord!
Oh boy, it feels like we've really settled into the cartoon that I imagine is probably there for the rest of the series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Last season was definitely a transitioning.
Yeah, the Scott Tenorman is definitely, it is the, introduction to South Park proper, I think.
Yeah, that was extra dark, and then the rest of the season felt like it was Cartman, settling into being that casually dark by just repeatedly bringing it up.
Yeah, and now he does, just do shit like this, where it's he is now, I think, taking the role from Mr. Garrison as being the worst person possible.
I think that makes sense, because, even in the first half of the episode, I wasn't or I guess, the third quarter, I wasn't totally sure if Cartman was intentionally doing this to get Butters in trouble, or if he was just being really stupid the way he was in very early seasons.
I think that is also, he is very stupid, so that way there's a lot of, what is going on, is it going to be a thing where they're going to twist on him, he's not going to see it coming, or is it, manipulative?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've been doing a fantastic job with that. What would you rate the episode?
I've got to give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay, fair. Yeah, it's a really funny joke, but it is one joke pretty much.
If this episode were 15 minutes long, I think it would be, near a 9 out of 10 for me.
Maybe, yeah.
With all the other jokes, City Walk and... the Butters plot line.
Sure. I don't know. I think this was... there's nothing I would cut out of this episode. I even thought the pacing was pretty good. It's just that the fact that they're doing one joke, even if it is funny every single time, there's not a lot of variety in what we're getting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think 7 out of 10 is pretty good. Okay. Also, I think this episode would have been done better if they could have done it with the knowledge of Jared being a pedophile. I think it could have been even funnier, because then they could have had a even better twist ending of oh, we still hate you for this, or then they find out about that, or something. But either way, as it is in a time capsule, trying to put yourself in the mindset of how people were at this time, it is really good for that. And it's difficult to talk about it in that aspect of it, but Jared being a very awful person for misleading so many people and everything, regardless of all the other stuff that we're going to pretend we haven't gotten to yet, it hasn't happened yet.
I mean, I will say that, in the previous episode, in Butters' very own episode, I thought that aged kind of for me, because, they did accuse a bunch of people of being killers, and, it is ambiguous in real life.
Yeah, that one definitely did not age as well.
Whereas with this one, I mean, there's no way for them to really tell, but because Jared is a absolute convicted pedophile who did create a foundation to rape children, it worked really well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, the 9/11 episode aged less poorly than this, or aged, no, what am I trying to say? No. I don't know what I'm trying to say because this one. I was about to say this one aged poorly. That's not what my point was. The point was that this one aged well.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it is a very like specific time capsule thing where
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense anymore, but it doesn't. But it isn't aged.
Yeah, like I do also think if Jared was not a pedophile, then this would probably be like a 6 out of 10 for me, just because it is so like it is such a flash in the pan that I would have not thought about for the past 20 years.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. It is very quick
Yeah.
of a thing. But I do think it impacted a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there are plenty of people who do think that Subway is healthy.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I think that is a huge... I would say that the majority of people who eat at Subway probably think that Subway is healthy. As opposed to, you know, being slightly better than the average, like, Subway shop you're going to go to. And even then, I don't know about that. I don't know. I can't say concretely. I'm saying maybe they're slightly better.
I mean, I'd say they're probably better than a lot of fast food, but worse than a lot of sub shops.
Okay, sure. I don't go to sub shops really ever, even Subway, so I can't really talk much about that. What do you think about the Butter/Kenny thing going on this episode?
I really like the way they've slid Butters into being the... what is the term for that? Like the karma sponge, I guess? Like
Yeah.
the person who doesn't really do anything wrong, but suffers immensely.
Yeah.
Because I do think Kenny was getting kind of old. I mean, like, honestly, in season 2, he was starting to get old with just the, like, oh, sure, he died.
Yeah, he just dies every episode, yeah. Like,
Yeah. And, like,
there's not a lot they were doing with him.
and even when they played on it, like, you know, when we see him and he's already dead, like, that's not that funny. It's just sort of
Yeah.
interesting.
It's definitely... Kenny, I think, is one of the things that has aged the worst for the show. Where it is probably... Like, I remember it being more funny as a kid, because it is, like,
Yeah.
unique. It is like watching a cartoon where a character's dying all the time. And it is spoofing the, like, you know, characters getting into these big problems at the end of things and everything's resolved by the end.
Yeah.
Because usually they have to be resolved in the episode itself. So Kenny, you know, is the more parody of that, where something doesn't get resolved by the end of the episode and then gets resolved next time. So yeah, I think it's a good like joke at that and everything, but it does kind of wear its welcome after 5 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, case in point by them, you know, just kind of doing it offhandedly after that. Like before, it would be like a joke in the episode or a like plot point even a lot of times, or something. But like in like season 5, it was mostly just like offhandedly Kenny would get killed in like 2 seconds and then we
Yeah.
just move past it.
I'm really happy that, I mean, first of all, they spent Butters' very own episode really establishing Butters' home life. Like, we already knew that his parents were awful. Like, we already knew that he is, you know, the wide-eyed innocent one who can get into a lot of trouble. But I think that episode really cemented, like, not a formula, but, like, the level of darkness you could then expect for him in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it is that really introduces him as the karmic sponge because it is brutal. So yeah, I think that is a good example of that.
I mean, I am going to call my shot and say Kenny is definitely not dead forever.
All right.
I'm going to guess sometime at the end of this season, like not the final episode because they don't really do a lot of like season finale episodes,
Sure.
but somewhere in the back half, we're going to have an episode where Kenny comes back for real.
Okay. So like, what the last episode they were planning to kill off Stan permanently.
Yeah.
What do you think like their decision to switch it over to Kenny was? Like, what do you think like their what do you think their reasoning was?
I think it was a combination of even they realized, yeah, Kenny dying every episode is very old, and also I think they wanted to switch things up for this season.
Okay. So that's why you're like kill him off for the season, bring him back at the end, or you know.
Yeah, or even maybe at the start of next season.
Okay.
But like, I don't think we're going to be Kennyless for like multiple seasons.
Okay. How would you think they would do it then?
Last season, I thought that the Kenny Dies episode was going to be the big, like, let's do some lore about Kenny and how he keeps on coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to do an episode that is the lore episode, where we see him, like, in heaven or whatever. Or, like...
Yeah,
we
do you have
see
like a prediction as to...
I think it's going to be that... Oh, boy, I don't want him to just be Deadpool. But...
I don't know what that even means, so...
My guess is that Kenny, due to, like, something... I don't want it to be vague. So, Kenny has been sentenced by some sort of, like, eldritch abomination to live forever.
Okay.
So that's why, like, he keeps on dying. He can go to heaven or go to hell, but he is forced to always come back.
Gotcha.
And because of something that we haven't seen, like maybe whoever made that happen died off screen, like because of that, he's dead forever right now.
Okay.
And so the like lore episode is going to explain that, and then like force Kenny back onto Earth.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I think that could also open up the possibility of them like create. Like I don't think they'd go back to a status quo of, but he's going to die every episode again. Like, I imagine if they do bring him back, it is going to be a, now Kenny's just in the background, or, you know, he is one of the boys, but he doesn't die every episode anymore. But he knows now that he can't die.
Okay. So, okay, gotcha. Good prediction. Not gonna say anything.
Alright.
What else did we get this episode? Oh, the opening. We got a new opening.
Oh my gosh, finally.
Yeah. We, most notably, did not have Butters in it, but did have Timmy in it.
Butters was at the very end.
He was at the end, but I mean, like, you know, we had it be, like, the singing boys was Eric, I was just say Eric, Kyle, Stan, and then Timmy.
Yeah. Which I think makes sense as the, like, the Kenny breakdown verse, which
Yeah.
is usually muffled. In this case, it is Timmy just, you know, speaking the way he does.
Yeah, it is the gibberish part of the lyrics,
Yeah.
essentially. So, yeah, I think that makes sense as a, like, you know, it would, like, maybe putting Butters in here would make more sense, but Timmy
Yeah.
fits the melody more.
Yeah, and I can't imagine Butters doing, like, a nonsense verse in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he's very stuttery, but that wouldn't really sound good.
Yeah, and he has a very different kind of singing voice than the rest of them, and in general, it would be such a different tone.
Yeah. But I really do like that they did, shake it up entirely, and it is the, like, putting them together layer by layer.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool.
Yeah, I think it really, like, you know, they did the one episode where they show you, like, how it's, like, they make the show and everything like that, but this opening really feels like, again, they wanted to hammer it into people, like, this isn't how we make the show anymore, but this is the, like, what the show is, like, it's not just, like, it really, like, tricks your mind into rethinking that this, like, we've been talking about the engine a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that opening, and even this episode, I think, brought us back into the real style of South Park, where stuff is supposed to feel like cardboard layers.
Yeah.
As opposed to feel like this engine where you can turn a camera in. You know, South Park, I feel like, is always supposed to feel like it is 2D and on paper.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want you to feel like it's 3D very much.
Yeah, like, the things that really impressed me animation-wise in this episode were very subtle.
Yeah.
Like Stan, like, you know, ripping off his hat and throwing it to the ground, and that just being a thing.
Yeah. Or, like, you know, when the cars come up there out of angle we've never seen before, and, like, that sort of stuff. I always like that sort of stuff as opposed to the, let's do, like, a 3D shot around the car or something.
Or even very early on when they were prank calling City Walk, Cartman, like, leans over, and it's a shot we've seen before, but usually it's more of a, like, just plain round circle.
Yeah.
But this time it felt more like it was actually him leaning backwards.
Yeah, they're getting a lot better with the character model. Like, the hands and the legs are getting more fleshed out as having joints, as opposed to just being flat shapes.
Yeah.
Not really went anywhere with it, but Shitty Walk, I always like the Shitty Walk jokes, the shitty beef, shitty pork.
Yeah.
It gets me every time. It's actually very similar to the AIDS joke. You know, they just kept making that one joke throughout the whole thing. But it works. It works.
Yeah.
The Jared songs, by the way, were fantastic. I absolutely love that. I don't know if that's a parody of something or not, but it's just funny to me as is.
Yeah, I don't remember there being a Jared song, but there may have been at some point. He was everywhere.
Yeah. God, that liposuction scene made me gag so much. I mean, it's because it went into his mouth and everything, but, like, it just... I don't even think it was the visuals as much as it was the act itself. Just, oh, man, that was bad. That got me so much.
The one thing that really bothered me in this episode was that, like, in a traditional South Park episode, they would set up the misunderstanding at the start, and then play it straight-faced all the way through until the end, and then we get the reveal.
Yeah.
But this time around, in the first act, the boys directly tell Jared, by aid, like, I mean, he tells them that he means his aides, like, his assistants.
Yeah.
So it feels really weird that then for the rest of the episode, he does not consider the idea that, oh, maybe I should clarify the way I clarified to those boys.
Yeah, it is a bit of a stretch, but I do, like, it is set up by the boy saying, you know, if you tell people you have AIDS, and they are saying it that way too, because they are both in this room with the understanding.
True.
So in the way that they say it, he takes it at face value. But yeah, it is it's a bit of a stretch, but it's whatever. I think that's pretty much it for this episode. But I did want to actually ask. We are on season 6 now, or we're on season 6 now. How do you feel about how much the show has changed from season 1 to season 6? And I will start you off with like our supporting cast. How like our 5th character, right? How do you feel about how much the 5th character, quote unquote, has changed a lot? And I'm talking like Wendy, Pip, Chef, Timmy, Butters. Like all 5 of them have kind of like shifted around and everything. And a lot of them were way more prominent at points and way less prominent at other points.
I'm really glad that they've stopped leaning on Chef quite as hard. Like, I get, Isaac Hayes is very talented, and I do like the Chef songs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it was much like Kenny dying every episode, it was getting a bit repetitive earlier on.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that they have been shifting the characters around. I always feel weird whenever a series introduces a character for a bit and gives them heavy focus and then doesn't really like shift them to a background role, but just kind of like stops using them, like Wendy. Like Wendy's around, but she's not really used unless it's a very specific episode.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's always going to bother me in a series like this. But at the same time, it does give it the feeling of being an actual city and the boys being actual boys who, are friends with people and then just kind of stop being friends for a little bit.
Yeah. Like, as they have been getting closer with the other people in their class besides just the 4 of them, they have been less leaning on the 4 of them just all immediately going to Chef, because it makes sense they have other people they can go to now.
Yeah.
Like, it is natural. It is just, it is weird from a comedy perspective. Because, it is like, Isaac Hayes was very funny, does a great job. I mean, I say was. I mean, he's still here and everything.
Yeah.
But it's just, so much less of a role. And I do miss the Chef songs. Like, they were getting, I don't know if I would say they were getting old in the same way Kenny was, but they were definitely, like, repetitive. They were definitely South Park was way more structured at the beginning than it was now. We gotta have the Kenny joke, we gotta do the Chef song, we gotta have the message at the end, the thing I learned today, we gotta, we gotta have all these catchphrases that we do all the time. Like, that too, like, the catchphrases have been so, like, dropped off.
Yeah, like, they're still around, but usually when they use like, when Cartman says any of his catchphrases now, the joke is also that he is actually saying one of them.
Yeah, as opposed to just, like, saying it as a joke. Like, they leaned on the catchphrases as legitimate catchphrases before.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel like a lot of times it is a, like, the joke is that it's being overused. Like, if Cartman says, "Screw you guys, I'm going home," now it is a, like, it is a parody of that catchphrase itself.
Right, it's...
But yeah, how do you feel about the other sidekick? We talked about Chef, talked about Wendy.
I think Timmy is, he also fills a very Wendy-ish role in that the season in which he was introduced was, like, very Timmy-focused, and we haven't totally dropped off with him, but he's been getting a lot less focus.
Yeah, definitely since the introduction of him. Like, he was introduced, got a lot, like, very front-loaded with his character, and then has just been in the back.
I do think, like, if South Park does have the 5th character be kind of, like, rotated out every season, which isn't exactly what they've been doing, but it's sort of there, like, I think that'd be a good way to just keep things fresh.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's not only every season, because a lot of times it happens mid-season.
Yeah.
But, something like that is definitely going on. Like, whether consciously or unconsciously, they're definitely doing something like that.
Yeah.
As a means to keep it fresh. Now, the one you haven't talked about, Pip.
Pip is so nothing.
We had Pip as, like, the 5th boy for, like, the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Like, season 2 through, like, maybe 5 or whatever.
The problem with Pip is that he's a karma sponge that they don't really care about very much.
He's a karma sponge that we as an audience also hate and want to see karma be done to him. Like, not for a karmic reason, but just because he is a annoying, badly written character, he was.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I would say I never really wanted bad things to happen to Pip because it was just like, I'd rather see a different character.
Sure, I guess that's a good point. It's not that I wanted to see bad things happen to him, but that bad things happen to him, I was just like, all right, It was just like this might as well also happen, as opposed to with Butters, where it is extremely funny because it is happening to Butters, who is completely undeserving of it.
Yeah, or Kenny, who is like very virtuous and also does not deserve it, and he is like fated to die every time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, yeah, Kenny's that is actually a different point though, because Kenny's the lack of like reacting to it, or the lack of any act, like it was always a universe thing happening to Kenny,
Yeah.
rather than the boys being terrible and doing it to Kenny because they didn't care about Kenny.
Right.
Like the more funny Kenny deaths, I think to me, were the ones where like Kenny would, or like, I guess it's not even like a Kenny death, but like the episode where was it Kyle was sick and dying, and Stan was talking about it with Kenny, and like you know, he cared about Kyle now and he never cared about Kenny dying.
Yeah.
And those sort of things, like where it's clear they don't care about Kenny dying.
Okay.
And you know, there's that sort of like meta-ness of Kenny being like, I die every fucking episode, you guys don't care. That sort of stuff is funny to me. But the Kenny deaths themselves, usually not so much.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of the Kenny deaths are also usually just gross out humor. You know?
Yeah. Like, we had a little gross out humor with Butters, but I do think, like, if the gag is going to be his parents just beating him off screen,
Yeah.
or him just, you know, being sent to his room and him, you know, being very upset about it, I think that would actually play a lot better.
Yeah. Okay, I think we talked about, like, you know, all the side, like the fifth character, as I said. How do you feel about like how much the town as a thing has grown? Like the adults, we've slowly introduced like almost all the parents, and now we have like we have this regular cast in the background that we use that, you know, you probably like recognize characters in it and stuff like that, but you probably would not be able to name who they are. Like this guy on the left who has the pink shirt and the red hair.
Yeah, like he's at the bar a lot. Like
Yeah.
I do definitely recognize his design.
Yeah. And, you know, we have just, like, a lot of characters now in the background that are becoming more, becoming more character is in the sense to where, like, yeah, that guy in the, I can't even think of his name right now, but, you know, he has a character despite the fact that, like, he has not had an episode about him or
Right.
anything like that. Just, the adults have slowly gotten more characterized without having to focus on them, which they struggle to do with the kids, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like early on, even though we did get a lot of, like, we saw the same characters a lot, or the same adults a lot,
Yeah.
it really felt like a budget limitation in that they didn't really do a lot with them, except for, you know, like, the really important ones, like Uncle Jim.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like, they have so many character designs in the background that when we see characters who actually have, like, voice lines, or they're doing something funny, I actually do, like, they pop out more because it doesn't feel like the show is being forced to use them.
Yeah. And also, earlier, there was a lot of, like, you know, they just had the designs, but they didn't think about them as characters. So that's right. We got, like, Butter's dad who had a different voice at the beginning, or we got, I mean, we've had a couple characters I can't mention yet who have had different voices and other stuff like that. A couple episodes ago, actually, for the first time, we were introduced to a character's voice without seeing their design.
Really?
Yeah, very, you know, it shocked me. And
Huh.
I think I know how it sort of happened. I think they just took that voice and made it into a character. But
Okay.
it's such a distinct voice that we only heard, like, off camera.
Like, was the voice in character in terms of what they were doing?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's why I had a big reaction to it that I didn't let you see.
Okay.
But I was like looking towards the camera trying to, you know, get back away from your eyes. And
Thank you.
But yeah, I was very shocked about that. Because most of the time it is we see a very strong character design that, you know, they clearly, like, someone made, and then they were like, oh, that was actually a really cool one, we'll reuse that as an actual character going forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's pretty much all we have to talk about here.
I do think the town itself still needs some work. Like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, there was a visitor.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the when City Walk guy gives them money, hopefully I'll remember to put this up, but maybe not. But he's in the background there.
But, the one thing I wanted to say is that I don't think we'll really have a consistent South Park until, you know, the point at which they did the first game. Because that's when they actually laid it out.
Yeah.
But, like, South Park as a town is the one thing I can't really get invested in terms of vibe. Like, I don't know where Town Hall is in relation to anyone's house.
Yeah, I mean that thing. I'm gonna have to tell you right now. That's never gonna be a thing in the show.
Oh, no.
In the show, it's always ambiguous as to where everything
Okay.
is and stuff. The boys' houses, they you know, flesh out more. But yeah, the game was a, like, there's literally no way to do this unless we have the town have a consistent design. But like, you know, as you know, like the proper condom use where there's just a giant like Mad Max field in the middle of, right outside the school.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, nothing for the episodes to work, it cannot be consistent at all. But there is some consistency in terms of the like buildings and everything, and like what is in South Park. Like if it's a like, you know, the Mad Max field is not going to be in South Park.
Sure.
But if they establish a building is in South Park, that building has to be in South Park.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's a tiny bit disappointing because one of my favorite things of like a Stephen King novel is like learning about the town and then understanding that, okay, this is actually consistent. So then, like, if something big happens, I know, okay, so this person's house is right next to the bakery. So they can, like, you know, sneak out of their bedroom and jump down and go into the bakery if they need to.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think you're going to get that with this. Like, the game, I think, is where you would get that. Like, that is still something that fills me with such, like, glee in the game sometimes when I'll, like, stumble across something. It's like, it was only ever in one episode, but it was in South Park, so it has to be here. And, like, they figured out how it fits in, you know, where it fits in and all that. And I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it sounds super charming.
Yeah. So, I think that's going for it.
And, I mean, I guess I can just enjoy the other concept of everything is kind of close to Kyle's house. So, presumably, he can jump from his room to any building in South Park.
This really is... South Park can basically be described as anything is close to anything.
Yeah.
Like, if it's in South Park, they can walk to it within 5 minutes.
It does have that very strong, like, pen and paper RPG vibe of, like, you know the city, or you know the town, or whatever, and you know a bunch of stuff is there, but you don't have to specifically say where anything is. You just say, I go to Shitty Walk.
Yeah.
Because I know it's there.
Oh, yeah. It has a very, comforting vibe because of that, I feel like.
Yeah.
And also, you know, it really sells the, you know, small town aspect of it. All right, we will see you guys. Well, actually, I didn't even look at my notes for this one. Boy, it's going to be a long discussion.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to see if there's anything interesting. Okay.
Please do.
Oh, this episode is spelled Jared has AIDS, AIDS. I really thought it was AIDS without the E because they were trying to, like, you know, even mislead the audience. But, oops. Okay, so the original title of this episode was Subway Sandwiches Gave Jared AIDS with AIDS.
Okay.
That was the original, like, name of the episode, but Comedy Central made them change it. Actually, it was specific because they weren't allowed to use this word Subway. So, Comedy Central exec said that you cannot use Subway. It's one of our biggest sponsors. You can't do it. And they said, okay. And then they made the episode and referenced Subway many, many times. And then they said, well, we already made the episode. Are you going to air it or not?
Do you know if Subway pulled funding or anything?
Apparently, I mean, no note saying that, but
okay.
I don't know if they would have that note on this episode of South Park's notes, or if that would be on, like, the Comedy Central thing. I don't know how I feel about this. Jared Fogle has said that the fact that this episode was devoted to him was very flattering. No, Jared, you're not allowed to like this.
I mean, a lot of the kids he molested probably were like, oh, you're the guy from South Park.
Oh, no, you are so right. He was like, thank you, guys. I love you, South Park.
Oh, no.
What? This might be the most insane takeaway I have ever seen from this episode.
Okay.
Do you remember how this episode ends with Shitty Walk giving them $15?
Yeah.
For everything they did? So, Amber Conrad of Inside CRM said that Jared has AIDS is in her list of 25 things I learned about business from South Park, saying that, basically, the lesson here is that sometimes you have to do uncomfortable things, like stuff yourself with food and then starve yourself to get money. But it's still money. What? What? How is that your takeaway from this episode? They got $15 for all that. That's not, it's still just money. What?
Oh, that's a very right interpretation of this episode. They did win. They got $15.
Yeah. Also, Jared did say in 2003 that the episode was the typical tasteless humor, but it was very flattering, which I cannot take in any way other than the episode was not funny, but at least kids will like me now.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
All right, that is it for the notes of this episode and everything. We'll see you guys for the next episode, which I didn't get the name of, although that was the whole point.
Boy.
We're really falling apart here. The next episode is Aspen.
Can I ask you how that's spelled?
Aspen.
I have an ass. I have a pen. Aspen.
No! That's it. We'll see you next time. Get the fuck out of here.